Most of us take comfort in thinking our dogs love us unconditionally. A wagging tail, a nudge at the knee, the sound of paws following us down the hall, it feels like proof. But here's the part few of us want to face. Sometimes a dog doesn't feel the same way. He may look away, refuse your touch, or quietly leave the room when you enter. For a man who leans on his dog for companionship, that silence cuts deeper than words. In this video, I'll walk you through 5 clear signs your dog may not like you. And the last one, even animal behaviorists were surprised. Let's begin with the very first clue. Sign number 1. The tail tells the truth. The tail is often the first place we look when we want to know how a dog feels. Most people assume a wagging tail means happiness, but that's not always the case. In fact, the direction of that wag can reveal a truth many owners never notice. A broad, right-sided wag usually signals comfort and joy, especially when the whole body wiggles along with it. But when that wag drifts to the left, the meaning is very different. Studies published in scientific journals show that dogs wag to the left when they're stressed, uneasy, or even suspicious of the person in front of them. Now imagine walking through your front door, expecting that joyful greeting, only to see your dog's tail flick left with hesitation. He's not rushing forward, not bouncing, not leaning into you, he's holding back. For men who depend on their dogs for trust and companionship, that small shift in movement feels like a betrayal. But it isn't hatred. It's a signal, a subtle cry that something isn't right. Maybe your dog feels nervous. Maybe he's remembering an old wound. Or maybe he just hasn't learned yet that you're safe. Here's where the fear of missing out comes in. Many owners never realize what those little wags mean. They smile, pat their dog, and move on, never knowing they just overlooked a warning sign. And when those signs are ignored, the distance between man and dog quietly grows. The tail tells us more than we think, but it's not the only clue. If you really want to know where your relationship stands, you need to look deeper, straight into your dog's eyes. Because the gaze of a dog can hold a secret even harder to ignore. Sign number 2. When the eyes look away. A dog's eyes can tell you everything. For thousands of years, dogs learned something that wolves never did, to look a human in the eye without fear. That gaze is not just a stare, it's a bridge, a bond, a silent handshake that says, I trust you with my life. When your dog meets your eyes, it's the deepest form of connection he can offer. But what happens when he refuses? When your dog turns his head, avoids your gaze, or blinks away quickly every time you look at him, it isn't just shyness. It's a survival instinct. In the animal world, avoiding eye contact is a way to prevent conflict. It says, I don't want trouble, but I don't feel safe enough to hold your gaze. For a man who spends his evenings with no one else in the room, losing that simple eye contact feels like losing a conversation you never knew you were having. It's as if your dog is there in body, but not in spirit. What makes this even harder is that many owners don't realize it's happening. They think he's just distracted. They shrug it off. But every avoided glance is another small wall being built between you and your dog. And here's the unsettling truth: dogs that once locked eyes with their owners, but suddenly stop, maybe signaling pain, stress, or even illness hiding beneath the surface. That's why paying attention to the eyes is not just about trust, it's about health too. The silence in those eyes can be louder than any bark. But if you really want to know where your bond stands, there's an even harsher test waiting. Because when your dog starts refusing food from your own hand, the message becomes impossible to ignore. Sign number 3, refusing your treats. Every dog owner knows the sound of a bag crinkling or the smell of a fresh treat can bring paws racing across the floor. Food is one of the strongest bonds between a man and his dog. It's not just nourishment, it's trust. That's why it can feel like a punch to the chest when your dog turns his head away from your hand. Refusing food is not normal. It's a message, and often it's one we don't want to hear. Sometimes a dog rejects a treat because he's nervous. Research on free-ranging dogs shows they are quick to take food when they feel safe, but hesitation or outright refusal often means stress or fear. Other times that rejection hides something more troubling: pain, illness, or a deep lack of trust. Imagine being a veteran offering your loyal partner a ration and he won't take it. It feels personal, like he's rejecting you, but really, he's trying to tell you that something inside isn't right. The danger comes when we brush it off, saying, "He's just not hungry." That's when the distance grows. A dog that repeatedly refuses treats from his owner is either too anxious to accept your offering or too unwell to care. Both possibilities deserve your attention. And here's the FOMO moment. If you miss this sign, you may miss the early warning of a health problem or a crack in the bond you thought was unbreakable. That small piece of food carries more weight than you realize. Accepting it means I trust you. I want what you offer. Refusing it means I can't. And once that trust slips, the fracture runs deeper than most men expect. But treats are not the only place trust shows itself. The truest test comes in the quiet hours of the night, when your dog decides whether to sleep beside you or keep his distance. Sign number 4, choosing not to sleep beside you. Nighttime is when trust is laid bare. In the wild, dogs and their ancestors curl up together, shoulder to shoulder, not just for warmth, but for survival. To sleep next to another is to say, "I believe you'll keep me safe while I close my eyes." That's why it can feel so hollow when your dog chooses the hallway, the couch, or the far corner of the room instead of your side. For a man who spends his nights in quiet, that empty space on the bed isn't just empty, it's rejection. It's the absence of trust. And it's easy to dismiss it, to say he just likes the cool floor, or maybe he needs space. But here's the truth. Dogs who avoid sleeping near their owner often carry unease. They're keeping their guard up, unable to surrender completely to rest in your presence. It's their way of saying, "I'm here, but I can't let go with you yet." Studies on canine body language confirm that relaxed sleeping positions on the side belly up, stretched out, only happen when a dog feels utterly safe. When he retreats from you at night, it means he hasn't handed you that final piece of trust. And here's where the fear of missing out becomes real. Many men never realize that bedtime tells them most about their relationship. They look at the daylight wagging tail and forget the truth revealed in the dark. That empty floor beside your bed might be whispering the loudest warning of all. And if you think distance at night is painful, the next sign cuts even deeper. Because when a dog starts vanishing from you in the daylight, too slipping away the moment you enter the room, the silence becomes almost unbearable. Sign number 5. When your dog disappears from you. Some dogs don't bark, don't growl, don't lash out. Instead, they vanish. They slip quietly out of the room the moment you walk in, as if your presence is a shadow they need to escape. For any dog owner, that distance stings. But for a man who counts his dog as his closest companion, it can feel like abandonment all over again. The silence of an empty room hurts more than any sound. This behavior is more than just shyness. Animal behaviorists call it withdrawal. It's a dog's way of protecting himself without confrontation. Instead of fighting or biting, he chooses to disappear. And when it happens often, it's not random. It's a message: "I don't feel safe here." Sometimes that fear is tied to past trauma, especially in rescue dogs who've carried scars from abuse or neglect. Other times it signals illness hiding beneath the surface. Dogs in pain will often retreat, avoiding contact, avoiding even the people they love most. The danger is that many owners mistake this for independence. They tell themselves he just likes his space. But deep down, dogs are pack animals. If your dog consistently removes himself from you, it's not about preference, it's about discomfort. And here's the unsettling part. By the time a dog chooses disappearance over closeness, the bond between you is already fraying. That's why noticing this sign early can make all the difference for both his health and your connection. When your dog vanishes into another room, he's not only hiding from you, he's hiding his truth. And if you ignore it, the distance can become permanent. So what do you do when these signs appear? That's where everything comes together, because the conclusion may hold the hope you've been waiting for. So now you've seen the 5 signs. The tail that wags the wrong way. The eyes that refuse to meet yours. The treat left untouched. The empty space at night. And the silence of a dog who disappears when you walk in. Each one is a whisper, a signal that your dog isn't as comfortable as you thought. But here's the truth. I need you to hold on to these signs don't mean your dog hates you. More often they mean he's scared, stressed, or hurting in ways he can't explain. And that's where you step in, with patience, gentle consistency, and sometimes a visit to the vet that bond can be rebuilt. Dogs want to trust. They want to love. Sometimes they just need us to see past the surface and give them the time they deserve. If any of these signs sound familiar, share your story in the comments. I promise you're not alone. And if you found this video helpful, subscribe and stay with us. Because in the next video, I'll show you the hidden ways dogs say I love you. And those signs might change the way you look at your best friend forever. Dogs are known for their affectionate nature, always eager to shower us with love and companionship. That's why it can feel so unsettling to realize a dog doesn't like you. It's disappointing enough when a stranger's dog shies away from your touch, but when you bring a new dog into your family, and they still keep their distance, it can be truly heartbreaking. In this video, we'll uncover 14 subtle signs that your dog may not be your biggest fan, and some of them might surprise you. So let's begin with the very first sign you need to watch out for. Signs number 14. When your dog growls at you and shows his teeth. It's one thing when he growls at the mailman or at a strange dog in the yard. That's his job, his way of protecting the home. But when the growl is turned toward you, when the teeth are bared, not at a stranger, but at the man who feeds him and keeps him safe, that's a moment that shakes you to the core. For many men, it feels like betrayal. Like the one friend you thought would never turn on, you just did. But here's the thing. Growling isn't always hate. It's communication. It's the oldest, rawest language a dog has. A growl is a warning. I'm scared, I'm hurt, or I don't trust what's happening right now. It's his way of saying back off before I have to defend myself. And that's why this sign is so powerful. Because if your dog has reached the point of growling at you, it means every quieter warning came before and was missed. The stiff body, the averted eyes, the tucked tail, they all whispered first. The growl is the shout, the last card he has to play. Animal behaviorists agree growling isn't aggression for the sake of aggression. It's self-protection. In fact, punishing a growl is one of the worst mistakes owners can make because it teaches the dog not to give the warning at all. Then, one day, instead of a growl, you get a bite. So what do you do if you hear it? You don't take it as hatred. You step back, you breathe, you ask yourself, is he in pain? Did I miss something? Has his trust been broken? Sometimes it's as simple as an old injury. flaring up when you touched the wrong spot. Sometimes it's fear from a rescue dog who still remembers hands that weren't gentle. It's hard, I know, to hear that sound come from the one creature you thought loved you without question. It feels like the floor giving way under your feet. But don't let despair take over. A growl is still a bridge, a line of communication. It means your dog is still trying to talk to you. And if you listen now, you can rebuild what's broken. And here's where it gets even trickier. Not all signs are this loud. Some are whispers so small you could miss them if you blink. And if the growl is the shout, the next sign is the silence, the kind of silence that cuts even deeper. Signs number 13, when your dog refuses your touch or turns away from cuddles. Think about it. For years, you've stretched out your hand and felt the warmth of his head press into your palm. You've sat on the couch and he climbed beside you without a second thought. That's what love looks like from a dog. It's not fancy words, it's closeness. So when one day you reach for him and he shifts away, when your hand touches fur, but he stiffens instead of leaning in, it feels like a door just closed. Most men don't talk about this, but let's be honest. When you live alone, when the house is quiet, and your dog is the only heartbeat next to yours, that small rejection can sting worse than anything you've ever heard from another person. It's not just about the cuddle, it's about what it represents. If your dog turns from you, what does that say about your bond? Here's the truth. Dogs crave touch, but only when they feel safe. Research has shown that gentle petting lowers cortisol, the stress hormone in both humans and dogs. That means touch is supposed to calm, to reassure, to bond. So when your dog refuses it, the message is clear: something inside isn't calm. It could be fear, it could be pain, it could be a memory he hasn't shaken. Rescue dogs, especially those who've lived through rough hands, sometimes see even kindness as a threat, at least until time proves them wrong. And here's where the danger lies. If you ignore this sign and keep pushing your affection, your dog might feel cornered. That's when a simple shift away can turn into a growl. And if you punish the growl, you risk losing the warning altogether. That's why this moment matters. When your dog refuses your touch, he's not saying, "I don't love you." He's saying, "I'm not ready, not right now." And if you can listen to that, if you can give him the space to choose, trust has room to grow again. But let me ask you this. What happens if your dog isn't just avoiding your touch, but actually choosing someone else's? Instead, what if the loyalty you thought was unshakable starts pointing to another person in your own home? That's the next sign, and it's one of the most painful to witness. Signs number 12. When your dog chooses someone else over you. Picture this. You walk into the living room after a long day, hoping for that one moment of comfort. But instead of rushing to greet you, your dog is curled up against someone else, maybe your son, your daughter, or even a friend who just stopped by. You lean down, hoping to join the moment, but the second you reach out, he slips off the couch and walks away. It's quiet, it's small, but it feels like a dagger. Because deep down, you can't help but ask why them and not me. This is one of the hardest signs to face, especially for men who live with family or share space with others. You see your dog's joy, you see the wagging tail, the playful nudge, but it's not for you. And that contrast hurts more than silence, because it proves the bond is still there, just not where you thought it was. Now let's pause. Dogs don't play favorites the way people do. Often they follow the person who offers the most consistency, who feeds them, who spends the most hours close by, or simply who feels calmest at the moment. That means it's not always about rejection. It can be about routine timing, even scent. But when the pattern repeats, When your dog consistently turns to others for comfort and ignores your hand, that's when the question becomes serious. Animal behaviorists point out that dogs are masters at reading energy. If you carry stress, grief, or anger, even if you never show it in words, your dog feels it. And sometimes they choose the safer harbor, the quieter presence. It doesn't mean you're unloved. It means the bond needs repair, patience, and a chance to reset. Still standing in that doorway, watching your dog snuggle with someone else while you're left on the outside, it feels deeply personal. And the temptation is to step in, to call his name louder, to force the attention back to you. But here's the truth. Forcing it only drives him further away. The key is to rebuild gently, to earn back the choice, so that one day it's you he runs to again. But what if he doesn't just ignore you in favor of someone else? What if he starts ignoring you completely, even when you give a command? You know he understands. That silence, that refusal, can feel like defiance. And it leads us straight into the next sign. Signs number 11. When your dog ignores your commands. There's a special pride in that moment, when your dog listens to you. You say, "Sit," and he lowers himself without hesitation. You call his name and he comes running. It feels like proof of the bond, a quiet agreement, that he trusts you enough to follow your lead. So when the day comes that you call and he doesn't even lift his head when you give a command, and he looks straight through you as if you weren't there, that silence can cut deep. Most people think disobedience is just stubbornness. But studies tell a different story. Research out of Newcastle University showed that adolescent dogs right around their teenage phase often ignored their owners while still obeying strangers. Why? Because ignoring wasn't about not knowing the command, it was about testing trust, about hesitation in the bond. And that same pattern shows up in adult dogs who feel uncertain about their place with you. In other words, if your dog turns a deaf ear to your voice, it may not be rebellion, it may be distance. And here's the twist. Sometimes ignoring isn't even about you. Dogs are experts at filtering information. If they decide your command doesn't matter in that moment, they tune it out. It's not malice, it's judgment. They're telling you that something about your connection, your tone, or even your timing didn't land. For a man who's used to loyalty and respect, that silent dismissal stings more than a bark ever could. But don't let pride fool you. Ignoring can be a sign of deeper issues, fear, mistrust, or even illness. A dog in pain won't respond the same way. A dog under stress might choose stillness instead of action. And the danger is this: if you read it only as defiance, you miss the real message underneath. So what do? You don't shout louder. You don't punish the silence. You lean in. You rebuild with patience, consistency, and calm presence. You let him learn again that your voice means safety, not pressure. And once that trust is back, the obedience follows naturally. But ignoring your words is one thing. What happens when your dog goes a step further? Not just refusing your command, but refusing your presence entirely. When he doesn't just stay put, but actually chooses to sleep far away from you. That's the next sign, and it speaks volumes about trust. Signs number 10. When your dog doesn't want to sleep in your room. For generations, dogs have slept close to their pack. In the wild, wolves curl together in small, safe spaces, each body guarding the other through the night. And even today, in our quiet houses, our dogs carry that same instinct. When your dog chooses to lie down near you, it's not just about comfort, it's about trust. It means he feels safe enough to close his eyes, knowing you'll be there when he wakes. So imagine this. It's late, the house is dark, and you call it a night. You pull back the covers expecting to hear the familiar sound of paws padding in behind you. But instead, nothing. You glance at the doorway, and he isn't there. You check the hall, the couch, maybe even the floor by the back door, and that's where he's curled up far from your side. No warm body by your bed. No quiet breath in the dark. Just absence. At first, you might tell yourself, it's nothing. Maybe he just likes the cooler floor, maybe he found a quieter spot. And sometimes that's true. But when night after night he chooses distance, when he consistently decides that his safest place isn't near you, that's a sign you can't ignore. It doesn't always mean dislike, it can mean uncertainty, stress, or even pain. Still, it's a message worth listening to. Animal behaviorists remind us that sleep is a dog's most vulnerable state. To sleep near you is to trust you fully. To sleep apart is to hold something back. And for a man who's spent his life valuing loyalty, that gap can feel like a wound. But don't lose hope. Distance can be rebuilt into closeness with patience. A calm presence, a gentle routine, and respect for his choices can remind him that your room is his safe space too. In time, trust can return, and so can those quiet nights side by side. Still choosing not to sleep in your room is one thing. What if the distance goes further? What if he won't even meet your eyes, avoiding your gaze, the way a stranger would? That silent refusal to connect face to face is the next sign, and it cuts deeper than you might expect. Signs number 9. When your dog avoids eye contact with you. There's a reason they call it a soulful gaze. When a dog looks into your eyes without fear, it's more than just a stare, it's a connection. Science even shows that when a dog meets your eyes with trust, both your bodies release oxytocin, the same hormone that bonds parents with children. It's a silent way of saying, "You are my family." So when those eyes look away, when he turns his head and refuses to meet your gaze, that silence hits harder than words. Picture this. You kneel down, call his name softly, hoping for that warm moment of recognition. Instead, his eyes dart to the side, his head tilts down, and all you're left with is the back of his ear. It doesn't come with a growl. It doesn't come with a bark. It comes with absence. And sometimes absence hurts more than noise. But here's the truth. Avoiding eye contact doesn't always mean hatred. For many dogs, it's a choice of peace over conflict. In the animal world, a direct stare can mean a challenge, even a threat. By looking away, your dog may be trying to keep the peace to avoid confrontation. Still, when it's your dog, the one who once locked eyes with you without hesitation, that avoidance can feel like rejection. Animal behaviorists believe that eye contact was one of the very first steps in domestication. It was the way dogs learned to bond with humans, to trade fear for trust. Which means when that gaze is missing, something in the bond is unsettled. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's pain, maybe it's a scar from the past. But whatever the reason, the silence of the eyes is a signal worth noticing. And here's where it gets even more troubling. If the eyes avoid you during the day, what happens when the whole body avoids you at home? What if your dog doesn't just turn his gaze, but actually disappears the moment you walk into the room? That's the next sign, and it's one of the clearest messages a dog can send. Signs number 8. When your dog avoids you or hides the moment you walk into the room. It's one thing when he turns his head away. It's another when his whole body chooses distance. You come through the door, expecting the sound of paws racing to greet you, but instead, silence. You call his name, and there's no response. Minutes later, you find him tucked under the table, curled up behind the couch, or hiding in the back room as if your presence pushed him away. For a man who has given everything to this animal, that moment can feel like betrayal. But here's the hard truth. Dogs rarely hide out of spite. They hide because they're afraid, stressed, or in pain. It's their survival instinct. When the world feels unsafe, distance is protection. And when that instinct is directed at you, it's not always about dislike. It may be about a broken trust, or sometimes even about illness. Veterinarians warn that sudden hiding can be one of the earliest signs of medical trouble, from injury to internal pain. Which means avoiding you could be less about rejection and more about a silent cry for help. Still, the feeling it leaves behind is sharp. You reach for closeness and are met with absence. You search the house not because he's lost, but because he's choosing to be away from you. And in the quiet corners where he curls himself, it feels like a distance that words can't close. But here's where you must lean in. Don't chase, don't scold, don't force him out of hiding. Instead, ask yourself, what is he afraid of? What changed? Did something happen to shake his trust? Or is something inside his body hurting? Sometimes the answer is medical. Sometimes it's emotional. Either way, his hiding is not rejection, it's a message waiting to be heard. And if you ignore it, the distance only grows. Because a dog that hides is a dog that cannot relax in your presence. Which leads us straight into the next sign, one that speaks even louder. What happens when your dog never lets his guard down, even when he's lying at your feet? Signs number 7, when your dog doesn't relax around you. A dog at peace is easy to recognize. He stretches out on his side legs, loose belly exposed to the air, eyes half closed, in a trust so deep, it almost feels sacred. That's the picture of safety. Because no creature, not even a dog, will bare its most vulnerable parts unless it believes it's safe. So when your dog never lies that way around you, when every muscle stays tight, every nap is light, and his body never melts into rest at your feet, that's a sign you cannot ignore. Think about it. You sit in your chair after a long day, hoping for that quiet comfort of a loyal companion snoozing beside you. But instead of stretching out, he keeps himself curled head, always lifting at the slightest sound, body tucked like he's bracing for something. That's not peace. That's a heart on guard. And when it happens in your presence, it raises a hard question. Why can't he let go around you? Now, sometimes the answer is simple. New environments, new people, even new smells can put a dog on edge. Rescue dogs especially may take months before their body language softens enough to show real trust. But when time passes and the pattern remains, when your dog never surrenders to rest near you, the message is clear: he doesn't yet feel safe enough. Scientists remind us that relaxation in dogs isn't just physical, it's emotional. A belly-up nap is more than a posture. It's a confession of faith. Without that, the bond is missing something vital. And for a man who's carried battles, losses, and the weight of silence, the absence of that trust can sting worse than words. But here's the twist. A dog that won't relax is often the same dog that will refuse more than just rest. Because if he doesn't feel secure enough to sleep at your side, what are the chances he'll take food from your hand when he feels uneasy? That's the next sign, and it's one of the clearest ways a dog tells you he's uncomfortable with you. Signs number 6, when your dog refuses your treats. Every dog lover knows the sound, the crinkle of a bag, the clink of a jar, and suddenly paws are tapping, tails are wagging, eyes are fixed on you with unshakable focus. Treats are a language of love, a way of saying, "Here, this is for you." So when your dog turns his head, backs away, or leaves the treat untouched in your hand, it feels like a slap you never saw coming. Because if food doesn't bring him closer, what will? Now let's be clear. Refusing a treat isn't always dislike. At the vet's office, for example, many dogs ignore even their favorite snacks, not because they don't like the person offering them, but because stress and fear drown out hunger. The same can happen at home. If your dog feels nervous, threatened, or unsettled in your presence, that refusal becomes more than appetite. It becomes a message. I don't feel safe enough to take this from you. And that's where the pain cuts deeper. Because treats aren't just calories. They're trust wrapped in a bite. If your dog won't accept them, he's not just skipping food, he's skipping connection. And for a man who's given everything to this animal, that rejection can echo louder than words. Experts warn that dogs use food acceptance as a kind of social bridge. When the bridge collapses, it's a sign of discomfort, maybe even fear. Ignoring that sign risks widening the distance between you. Listening to it, though, opens the door to healing. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Food is just one thing dogs share to show affection. Sometimes the real proof of love isn't in what they take from you, but in what they bring to you. So what happens when your dog never carries over his favorite toy, his bone, or that tattered tennis ball to lay at your feet? That's the next sign, and it's one that reveals more about trust than most people ever realize. Signs number 5. When your dog doesn't bring you gifts. It may sound strange, but dogs do give gifts. A chewed-up toy, a bone they've been guarding, even a stick they dragged in from the yard. These little offerings aren't random. They're symbols. They say, I trust you with what I value most. So when your dog never places a toy at your feet, never drops a ball in your lap, never shares the things he treasures, it's not just about playtime, it's about trust withheld. Think about it. Most dogs are naturally possessive. A bone, a favorite toy, even a sock stolen from the laundry. These are treasures in their world. To hand them over is a vulnerable act, almost the canine version of saying, here I want you in my circle. If that never happens, the silence is telling. It means your dog hasn't invited you into that private space where loyalty lives. Now, sometimes the reason is simple. A shy rescue dog may guard his possessions because in his past everything he had was taken away. Other times it's fear that if he shares, he won't get it back. But either way, the absence of gifts is not about laziness, it's about a wall that hasn't yet come down. And here's the sting. When your dog plays fetch with someone else, but won't bring the ball to you, when he trots across the room to show another family member his prize, while you're left empty-handed, it doesn't just feel like rejection. It feels like exclusion. You're not part of his inner circle, at least not yet. But don't mistake this for hopelessness. With patience, kindness, and consistency, you can become the person he wants to share with. And when that day comes, when he drops that ragged toy in your lap, it won't be just a game. It'll be a declaration of trust. Still sharing toys is one thing. What if the very way he wags his tail carries a hidden warning you've been missing all along? Because sometimes the direction of a tail wag tells you more about how your dog feels than any bark or growl ever could. Signs number 4. When your dog wags his tail to the left. Most people think a wagging tail is always good news. They see movement, they see energy, and they assume it means joy. But not all wags are created equal. The truth is, a tail wag can hold secrets, and the direction of that wag may reveal more than you realize. When a dog's tail swings to the right, studies show it often signals comfort, happiness, even excitement to be near you. But when that tail shifts to the left, it tells a different story. A story of unease, of stress, sometimes even suspicion. Picture the moment. You walk through the door expecting your dog's whole backside to wiggle in joy. Instead, the tail moves, but not with the wide, happy sweep you know. It leans left slower, tighter, almost reluctant. You might miss it if you're not looking closely, but your dog isn't. To him, that leftward wag is a guarded message. I don't feel sure about this. Animal behaviorists have studied this subtle detail, and their findings are clear. Dogs reserve rightward wags for comfort and leftward wags for caution. Which means, if you see the tail drifting left in your presence, it may not be outright dislike, but it is doubt. And doubt in a dog is dangerous, because if left unaddressed, it can grow into distance. For men who live alone, that moment can hit harder than expected. The tail wag you thought meant love now whispers uncertainty. And the hardest part? It's silent. Your friends might never notice it, but you will. Because in your gut, you know something has shifted. But here's where the story twists again. If a tail leaning left is a quiet warning, what happens when your dog's silence turns into absence? When instead of standing near you, he simply doesn't come at all, after moments you once shared together. That next sign reveals more than just mood. It cuts straight into the bond you thought was unshakable. Signs number 3, when your dog doesn't come to you after eating. For most dogs, the minutes after a meal are some of the most honest. A full belly brings contentment. And in that comfort, many dogs seek out the ones they love most. They curl beside you, nudge your hand, or simply rest their head on your lap, as if to say, "I'm not here just for the food, I'm here for you." That quiet moment after dinner is a bond, a declaration that you are more than just the hand that fills the bowl. So when your dog finishes eating, and then walks away without looking back, when he chooses the corner of the room, or even another person, instead of your side, it sends a message you can't ignore. It says the bond you thought was reinforced by routine may not be as solid as you hoped. Now, sometimes there are simple reasons. Maybe he's too tired. Maybe the food didn't sit well. Maybe he wants space. But when it happens often, when your dog never comes to you after meals, it's not about routine, it's about connection. Because cuddling after eating is one of the clearest signs of affection a dog can show. Without it, the silence feels heavier, as if you've been left out of the circle that should have included you. And here's the deeper truth. Dogs who stop approaching after meals may also be hiding discomfort. An upset stomach, a sore joint, or even a hidden illness can push them toward solitude. That's why paying attention matters. Because this isn't just about hurt feelings, it could be about health. For men who live alone, that empty space after dinner, when your dog doesn't come closer but drifts away, can feel like rejection. And in that silence, doubt grows. But there's something even more telling, a sign that cuts across every wag, every cuddle, every meal. Because when the tail drops low and stays tucked between the legs in your presence, that isn't just a hint, it's fear made visible. And that is our next sign. Signs number 2, when your dog tucks his tail and looks nervous around you. A dog's tail is like a flag of the heart. It tells the truth whether you want to hear it or not. When that tail is high and wagging wide, you know he's happy, relaxed, open to the world. But when it drops low, when it curls tight beneath his body, that isn't just posture, that's fear. It's a universal signal in the canine world: I don't feel safe. Imagine calling your dog's name, expecting the usual rush of joy, only to see him shuffle toward you with his tail pinned tight, body low, eyes darting away. That image stays with you. Because in that moment, you're not just looking at a dog, you're looking at doubt, maybe even fear, and it's directed at you. For any man who's built his life on loyalty, who's leaned on his dog through silence and loss, that tiny tucked tail feels like a knife in the chest. But here's what you need to know. Dogs don't tuck their tails out of spite. They do it out of instinct. Something in them feels unsure, and their body shows it. Sometimes it's a memory of rough hands from a past life. Sometimes it's a loud sound, a sudden movement, or even a scent that unsettles them. And sometimes, yes, it's because the trust between you hasn't yet reached where it needs to be. Animal behaviorists warn us that this sign should never be ignored, because fear that stays unaddressed doesn't just fade, it grows. A tucked tail today can become a growl tomorrow, and if you push past it instead of listening, the distance only deepens. But there's also hope in that little signal, because as painful as it is, it's still communication. Your dog hasn't shut you out completely. He's still telling you, "I'm not okay." And if you answer with patience instead of pressure, that tail can rise again. Still, there is one sign even more painful than fear, one that doesn't come with a growl, a whimper, or even a tucked tail. It's not noise, it's not motion, it's absence. The final and hardest sign is silence itself, the kind that greets you at the door when joy is nowhere to be found. Signs number 1. When there is no joy in your dog's welcome, only silence. Every dog owner knows the moment. You put the key in the door, turn the handle, and before you even step inside, you hear it. The scramble of paws, the sharp breath of excitement, the tail thumping against the wall. That greeting is one of life's purest gifts. It says, "You're home, and that's all I need." So what happens when the greeting disappears? You open the door to quiet. No paws racing toward you, no tail wagging, no spark in the eyes you've trusted for years. Just silence. He may be there lying in the corner, but he doesn't rise. He may glance at you, but the joy is gone. And that absence, that hollow space where celebration used to be, is the loudest sign of all. It's easy to tell yourself he's tired, or older, or distracted. And sometimes, yes, those things are true. But when the joy is gone day after day, when your presence no longer lights a fire in him, that's not just fatigue, it's distance. Distance that could be rooted in mistrust, in pain, or in illness. Because dogs don't hide happiness. If it's missing, something is wrong. For a man who has leaned on that greeting as proof that he's not alone in the world, the silence at the door can feel like a punch to the chest. It makes you wonder if you've lost something that can't be replaced. But here's the truth. The absence of joy isn't always permanent. It's a signal, a plea for attention, a reminder to look deeper. Sometimes the answer lies in rebuilding trust. Sometimes it lies in calling the vet. But it always lies in listening. And this is where the journey comes full circle. Because from the first wag of a tail to the silence at the door, every sign is a message. Your dog isn't out to reject you. He's trying to tell you something in the only language he has. So here we are. 14 signs each one. A message each one. A whisper or a warning from the dog who shares your life. From the growl that rattles your heart to the silence that cuts the deepest, every moment we walked through today carried the same truth: your dog is always speaking. The question is, are we listening? You see, dogs don't write words or leave letters. They don't sit us down and explain what's wrong. They speak in tales, in eyes, in small choices, where they sleep, who they run to when they turn away. And as painful as it feels when those signs point to distance, it doesn't always mean your dog has stopped loving you. Sometimes it means he's scared. Sometimes it means he's sick. And sometimes it simply means the trust still needs time to grow. For men who live with silence in the house, who lean on that loyal companion more than words can ever say, these signs hit harder than most people will ever understand. But I want you to hold on to this. If your dog is still showing signs, even the painful ones, it means he's still reaching out. A growl is still communication. A tucked tail is still a message. Even the absence of joy at the door is still a chance for you to look closer, to ask what's really wrong, and to fight for the bond that has carried you this far. And here's the promise I'll leave you with. Trust can be rebuilt. Fear can be softened. Even silence can be broken. If you listen, if you stay patient, if you keep showing up day after day with kindness and steadiness, your dog will see it. And when he does, the joy you thought you lost can return, and when it does, it will mean more than ever before. If this video helped you see your dog in a new way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more science-based, heartfelt guidance to help you understand your best friend, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because the next time we sit down together, I'll show you even more ways to read your dog's heart and strengthen the bond that can carry you through anything. You feed him every morning, take him out for his walk, and make sure he's warm at night. Same blanket, same spot, every single day. You've given him love in the way you know best. But what if I told you some of the things you do out of pure love might actually be the very things that make him uneasy, even stressed? It's not about how much food is in his bowl or how long the walk is. It's something smaller, quieter, and it happens right under your nose. In fact, only 2% of owners ever notice these signs before they chip away at their dog's trust. These aren't fancy training tricks or complicated routines. They're small, almost invisible changes that speak directly to his heart. Picture this, the way he leans into you when he's at peace, the way his eyes soften, the way his breathing slows. That's the connection we all want. And yet, without even knowing, most of us are doing little things that push that connection away. In this video, we're going to uncover 10 everyday things dogs hate about humans. Things most owners don't even realize they're doing, and how to stop them before they damage the bond you've built over years. Let's start with the one that can make even the toughest, bravest dog tremble: loud noises. Think about the last time a firework cracked in the distance, or you switched on the vacuum. You might have jumped a little, but he bolted under the bed, maybe shaking so hard you could feel it through the floor. You told him it was okay, but he didn't believe you, because to him it wasn't just noise. It was danger. Here's the thing, your dog's ears are built differently from yours. He hears the world in a higher resolution, picking up sounds you can't even register. A vacuum or hairdryer to us is just a hum to him. It's like standing next to a jet engine. And fireworks. That's like sudden gunfire in a quiet room. Science backs this up. A study in Frontiers in Veterinary Science found that noise sensitivity is one of the most common behavioral issues in dogs, especially in those with joint or muscle pain. They react with trembling, hiding, even drooling, and if it happens often enough, that reaction can turn into a learned fear. Now here's the part most owners miss. It's not always the big noises that wear him down. It can be the small, constant ones: the hairdryer after your shower, the blender in the kitchen, the garage door slamming shut. Over time, each one adds a drop to his stress bucket until it overflows. So what do? First, give him a safe spot. Somewhere quiet, familiar, maybe with a piece of your clothing. Second, when you know a noise is coming, pair it with something he loves: a treat, a gentle touch, your calm voice. You're not just comforting him, you're teaching his brain a new association. And here's the twist: if sound can hit him that hard, wait until you hear what strong smells do to him. If sound can rattle him, that much smell can overwhelm him even faster. You come home with a brand new floor cleaner. You love that fresh scent, smells like a hotel lobby. You spray it around, mop the floor, and feel good about having a clean house. But he walks in, takes one sniff, and leaves the room. Not because he's moody, because that fresh smell to you is like a thick cloud of perfume to him, so strong it almost burns. Here's the thing, a dog's nose isn't just better than yours. It's in a different league. Scientists estimate it can be 10,000 to 100,000 times more sensitive. That means the citrus cleaner you barely notice might be screaming in his head. The same goes for scented candles, laundry detergent, even that new aftershave you're proud of. And it's not just unpleasant, it can actually change how he behaves. Some dogs will avoid entire rooms. Others get restless, pacing, or scratching at the door. It's their way of saying, "I can't relax here." The fix: keep strong odors out of his main spaces. Use odor-free or pet-safe cleaning products. Ventilate the room before he comes back in. And if you want a smell he actually likes, stick with the natural ones: your scent, his bed, the familiar smell of home. Because here's the kicker: if you're overloading his nose, you might also be overloading his mind in other ways. Especially when you talk more than he can process. If his nose can be overloaded, his brain can be too, especially when you talk more than he can follow. Picture this: you're in the kitchen, he's sitting by the door, and you start explaining in full sentences why you can't take him out yet. You're sure he understands because he's tilting his head. Right. Here's the truth: he's not following your story. He's trying to pick out anything familiar from the noise. Dogs don't process language the way we do. Sure, they can learn words, some even over 100, but they're masters of body language and tone. Long speeches with no clear signals. That's like someone giving you directions in a language you barely know without pointing the way. It's exhausting. Science backs this up. Training studies show that dogs respond faster and more accurately when cues are 1 to 2 words paired with a consistent hand signal. The shorter and more distinct the cue, the less background noise their brain has to filter. Here's where it gets tricky. Talking too much isn't just ineffective, it can actually frustrate him. If he can't decode what you want, he might tune you out completely. The fix: keep it short, keep it clear, and let your body do the talking. A step forward, an open palm, a nod, he'll understand that faster than a paragraph. And here's something most owners don't realize: even if your words are perfect, your energy can undo everything, especially if it's negative. Even if your words are spot on, your energy can undo everything, especially if it's negative. Picture this. You come home and there it is, the shredded pillow on the floor. He's lying on his bed looking up at you. You feel that flash of anger, so you raise your voice, maybe even point at the mess. But here's the problem. It happened hours ago. In his mind, your anger isn't connected to the pillow. It's connected to you. Dogs live in the moment. Behavior experts say they can only link an action to a consequence within a matter of seconds. That means if you scold him even a minute late, he's not learning. Don't chew the pillow. He's learning. Sometimes when my human walks in, they explode. And that creates stress, even fear. A study on canine learning and emotional response found that delayed punishment not only fails to correct behavior, it increases anxiety-related behaviors over time. You think you're teaching, but really you're just eroding trust. Here's what works. Instead, catch it as it happens. Redirect him, swap the pillow for a toy, guide him to the right behavior, then reward the good choice. Your calm, in-the-moment correction will teach far more than any angry outburst. Because here's the thing. Even when your timing is perfect, if your daily rhythm isn't, he can still feel like his world is out of balance. And that's where the real stress creeps in. Even when your timing is perfect, if your daily rhythm isn't, he can still feel like his world is out of balance. Think about your own life. If breakfast was at 6 a.m. some days, noon on others, and sometimes skipped altogether, you'd start to feel on edge. For dogs, that unease is magnified. They don't have a calendar or a clock. They read the world by patterns. When those patterns break without warning, so does their sense of safety. And it's not just feeding time. It's the walk that happens before coffee one day and after dinner the next. It's sit meaning one thing on Monday and a totally different thing on Friday. Every inconsistency is like a crack in the map they use to navigate their life with you. Behavior research has shown that predictable routines lower cortisol, the stress hormone in dogs. A consistent environment helps them relax, adapt faster, and even learn commands more effectively. On the flip side, constant changes keep them in a mild state of alert, always waiting for the next unpredictable shift. The fix is simple. Pick a rhythm and stick to it. Feed around the same time. Walk around the same time. Use the same words for the same actions. That stability isn't boring to him. It's comforting. It tells him, this is your home. You know what happens here. You're safe. And yet, even in a safe, predictable home, one single look can change how he feels about you. And I mean, literally just looking at him the wrong way. Even in a safe, predictable home, one single look can change how he feels about you. And I mean, literally just looking at him the wrong way. You've seen it before. You lock eyes with him, maybe just for fun, waiting to see who looks away first. Sometimes he holds the gaze, but more often he glances aside, licks his lips, or shifts his weight. That's not him being shy. That's him saying, hey, this is making me uncomfortable. In dog language, prolonged direct eye contact can mean challenge, even threat. Out in the wild, two dogs holding a hard stare are either sizing each other up or seconds away from a fight. In his mind, a stare is a signal to prepare for something, not to relax. Now, here's the twist: eye contact isn't always bad. The Duke University study found that soft, mutual gazing, just a few seconds at a time, can spike oxytocin in both dogs and humans, the same hormone that bonds mothers to babies. But the key word is soft. When it's too long, too intense, it flips from comfort to confrontation. So the fix is simple. Keep your gaze gentle. Blink. Look away. Let him approach you before you meet his eyes. You'll still get the connection without the pressure. And here's where it gets tricky, because if the way you look at him can make or break trust, imagine what happens when you wrap your arms around him without asking. If the way you look at him can make or break trust, imagine what happens when you wrap your arms around him without asking. We humans hug to show love. To us, it's comfort, safety, connection. But to most dogs, a hug means something else entirely: restraint. You're wrapping yourself around his body, limiting his movement, holding him in place. In dog language, that can feel like you're taking control and not letting go. You've probably seen the signs without realizing it. Ears pull back, body stiffens, maybe a yawn or a slow lick of the lips. Those aren't signs of relaxation. They're signals that he's tolerating the moment, not enjoying it. Some dogs learn to accept hugs, especially if they've been gently introduced to them as puppies, but many never truly like it. They just put up with it because they love you. And kissing, same deal. Dogs don't kiss each other. A face moving close, especially toward theirs, can feel threatening. Yes, some will nuzzle you back, but others will turn away or freeze, waiting for it to be over. The fix. Watch his signals. If he leans in, relaxes, and stays close, go ahead. If he stiffens, pulls back, or avoids your face, show affection in a way he prefers: a scratch behind the ear, a hand resting on his chest, or just sitting quietly together. Because here's the thing. Even the most loving touch can backfire if you ignore his comfort zone. And when you step outside, There's one habit that can frustrate him more than any hug ever could. Even the most loving touch can backfire if you ignore his comfort zone. And when you step outside, there's one habit that can frustrate him more than any hug ever could: rushing his walk. You've seen it. The moment you clip on the leash, his nose drops to the ground like it's glued there. He's not being stubborn. He's reading the news. Every scent tells him who's been there, what happened when it happened. It's his social media, his newspaper, his memory book, all rolled into one. But then the leash tightens. You pull forward because you've got things to do, places to be. Maybe you even give a quick jerk to get him moving. To you, it's just keeping pace. To him, it's like someone yanking you away mid-sentence, over and over again. Science shows that sniffing is more than curiosity. It's mental enrichment. Dogs allowed to sniff freely during walks have lower heart rates, explore more, and show fewer signs of stress. When you rush him, you're not just cutting his walk short, you're cutting his chance to relax and connect with his world. The fix: give him sniff breaks. Use a loose leash or an anti-pull harness so you're not creating constant tension. Let him choose the pace for part of the walk, then guide him when you need to move on. You'll be surprised how much calmer he is afterward. Because here's the twist: if pulling him away from a scent can ruin his walk, imagine how confused he feels when you dress him up in something that makes no sense to him at all. If pulling him away from a scent can ruin his walk, imagine how confused he feels when you dress him up in something that makes no sense to him at all. You've seen the photos online: dogs in sweaters, raincoats, even Halloween costumes. We do it because it's cute, it's fun, it makes us smile. But here's the thing: for most dogs, clothing isn't fashion, it's restriction. That sweater that makes him look cozy might actually make it harder for him to move naturally, to run, to stretch, even to communicate through his body language. Sure, there are exceptions. If it's freezing outside or your vet recommends a coat for medical reasons, that's different. Dogs with short coats, puppies or seniors might need a little extra warmth. But putting clothes on a healthy dog in mild weather? That's for us, not for them. Watch his body language when he's dressed. Does he freeze, walk stiffly, or keep trying to shake it off? Those are signs he's uncomfortable. Some dogs learn to tolerate clothes, but many never understand why it's happening. They just feel trapped. The fix: keep clothing functional. If it's cold, wet, or medically necessary, use lightweight, comfortable gear that doesn't restrict his movement. Skip the decorative outfits unless you're sure he's comfortable, and even then, keep it short. Because here's the truth: while a silly sweater might just make him uncomfortable, there's one thing you can do that will truly break his heart, and it has nothing to do with what he wears. While a silly sweater might just make him uncomfortable, there's one thing you can do that will truly break his heart, and it has nothing to do with what he wears. It's when you're not there at all. I'm not talking about the quick trip to the store. I'm talking about being away so long, so often, that he doesn't know when or if you're coming back. For a dog, your absence isn't just quiet time. It's a hole in his world. You are his constant, his reference point. When you vanish, the entire map of his day falls apart. Some dogs handle alone time better than others, but for many, especially those who've been abandoned before, each hour alone feels heavier. The signs creep in slowly. The way he stops greeting you at the door, the toys left untouched, the meals eaten half-heartedly. In severe cases, it's pacing, destructive chewing, or simply lying in the same spot, waiting. Behavior studies on separation anxiety show it's one of the most distressing experiences for a dog, triggering not just stress behaviors, but physiological changes: elevated heart rate, higher cortisol, disrupted sleep. It's not spoiling him to be present. It's meeting a core need. The fix. If you must be away, make sure he knows when you'll return, and keep that promise. Leave something with your scent. Arrange for a neighbor friend or sitter to stop by. Most of all, never make goodbye a permanent word. Because here's the hardest truth: your dog will never understand why you left for good. And when that happens, trust isn't just broken, it's gone. You feed him every morning. You walk him. You keep him warm at night. That hasn't changed since the day you brought him home. But now you know love isn't just what you give. It's also what you avoid taking away. The loud noises, the strong smells, the mixed signals, the unpredictable routines, none of these come from a place of cruelty. They come from love, from habit, from not knowing any better. But the truth is, your dog doesn't judge you for the mistakes. He just hopes you'll notice. And when you do, that's when the bond deepens in a way you can feel. We've walked through 10 everyday things dogs hate about humans. And now it's your turn. Pick one change, just one. Maybe you let him sniff a little longer on your next walk. Maybe you swap the scented cleaner for something gentle. Maybe you just soften your gaze when you meet his eyes. Because every small change says, I see you. I understand you. You matter to me. And for a dog, that's everything. If any of this made you think about your own dog, the one lying by your feet right now, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Share what you've noticed, what you've changed, and what difference it's made. And if you want more ways to understand him to protect that trust, make sure you subscribe. Because the more we learn to speak their language, the less we risk losing their trust, and the more we get to enjoy the quiet, unshakable loyalty only a dog can give.